Hi, my name is Monique Mayberry, and my professional development is focused on teacher privacy and how what they do outside of the classroom can affect their job. The goal of this presentation is to educate new teachers about their rights to privacy and how to prevent a conflict of interest between work and personal life. The learning objectives are: the teacher will become familiar with and understand the Texas Administrative Code of Ethics. The teacher will discover the laws that protect their privacy. The teacher will apply the nexus requirement to determine behaviors that will negatively affect job security. The teacher will be able to monitor and adjust personal social media networks to depict them in a positive light. The Texas Administrative Code of Ethics: how to avoid becoming a news headline. Now, I know a lot of you have seen on the news, on internet, media, blogs, even by word of mouth, how some teachers are having relationships with the students, uh, having children by students, fighting the students, being verbally and physically abusive to students. And we want to prevent that. We want you to be able to come in and avoid becoming a news headline. And here are a few of the code of ethics that can help you achieve that goal. The educator shall be of good moral character and be worthy to instruct or supervise the youth of this state. Teachers are held at a higher standard than most occupations. Teachers are role models for students, so many students. So you have to be of good moral character. You really want to avoid doing anything that's immoral, at least in public. The educator shall refrain from the illegal use of distribution of controlled substances and or abuse of prescription drugs and toxic inhalants. Just say no to drugs. The educator shall maintain appropriate professional educator-student relationships and boundaries based on a reasonably prudent educator standard. The educator shall not solicit or engage in sexual conduct or a romantic relationship with a student or minor. Don't ask for sex. If a student is coming on to you, don't do it. Avoid that situation. Report it to the administrator. Do not engage in that type of relationship with the student. That is a boundary that you do not want to cross. You will become a headline. The educator shall refrain from inappropriate communication with the student or minor, including but not limited to electronic communication, such as cell phone, text messaging, email, instant messaging, blogging, or other social network communication. The nature, purpose, timing, and amount of the communication. The subject matter of the communication, whether the communication was made openly or the educator attempted to conceal the communication, whether the communication could be reasonably interpreted as soliciting sexual contact or a romantic relationship, whether the communication was sexually explicit, and whether the communication involved discussion of the physical or sexual attractiveness or the sexual history, activities, preferences, or fantasies of either the educator or the student. When privacy becomes public, what's done after work can get you fired. This here is the evolution of a first year teacher. They're excited, beginning of the semester, they're excited, they're ready to go, they're prepared. Well, a little bit after the first day, first couple of months, they're gonna stay overnight, got things to work on. Then December they sick. Spring break the kids have wore them out. Summertime they're ready to party. Get me a beer. And you can have that beer. You can. But you cannot have excessive amount of beers, get drunk, and have it posted on some type of social media network. Those type of activities cannot become public. What you do in your private time should remain private. And what happens is once those acts become public, students may see it, parents may see it, administrators may see it, and it can affect your job. Teachers do have rights. The right to remain silent. You can't go on your social media accounts, you can't post videos, anything that's negative as it relates to students especially. You can have a student that's in your class that's a behavior problem. And he might get on your nerves, but you cannot post on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram that student gets on your nerves. Somebody somewhere will see it. You can't have your friends post things on your page about students or something that's explicit or inappropriate, immoral. Although you didn't post it, it's on your friends, it's on your page. Teaching in the digital age, the do's and don'ts of social media. The first picture is a teacher smoking a cigarette. It's not immoral, right? But the comments that she made on her Twitter account was that she was high. She was rolling up marijuana. She was drunk. Well, if we go back to the code of ethics, illegal substances is a no-no. Here you are doing it and talking about it publicly for students to see. And you can't tell a student not to do something and then you're doing it. You have to be that role model for them. Another comment that a teacher made. A 17-year-old student just asked me how to spell college. Guess where she will never go? Teachers implying that a student is stupid, not a good idea on social media. It's a chance that someone will see that and report you. Assessment, appropriate now. What would you do? So a student's in class, he's bored, he's on his cell phone, he posts, bored as hell. His teacher then responds to this post. Did you forget that we are friends on Facebook? I am looking at you right now using your phone. You must really take me for an idiot. I have asked you repeatedly not to use your phone in class. Maybe this will get your attention. You should get a Facebook notification pretty soon. So once you read this, please come get your disciplinary slip to the principal's office. Congratulations again on getting caught using your phone. You're about as good at getting busted as you are at failing math tests. Also, I see you're friends with your parents. Maybe we should see what they think about you being on your phone during my class. What do you think? Well, what do you think? Is this appropriate or not? Are you morally correct? Having sexual conduct with students? Making sexually explicit remarks or talking about sex unrelated to the curriculum? Distribution of sexually explicit material to class, using obscene, profane, or abusive language? Public lewdness? Possession or use of illegal drugs? Criminal misconduct? Dishonesty? Are you morally correct? The nexus requirement. So in 1969, there was a court case, Mark Morrison versus the California State Board of Education. Mark Morrison was a veteran teacher, no prior complaints, no criminal activity, and he participated in the sexual affair with a married man. For some reason, his partner reported their relationship to the school board, and Morrison was fired. So of course he goes to appeal this decision because, hey, he's a good teacher. Been teaching for a while. Why'd he get fired because of what he did at home? Well, back then, adultery was a big no-no. That was considered immoral, let alone being a homosexual. So the court decided that it's hard to determine what is considered moral or immoral because everyone has their own view of what's considered immoral. I may not have a problem with homosexuality. Maybe you do. Who are we to determine what is moral and immoral? And unless that what's immoral is listed in your contract or stated somewhere, it's really vague. So the court required a nexus or a link to the conduct and the classroom performance. Does this man having sex with another man impact his ability to teach his students? Is it interfering with his class performance? If it's not, can you fire him for that? So this is where the nexus requirement came in from the Morrison versus California State Board of Education case. Some other related court cases are Jarvella versus Willoughby Eastlake School District of 1969. This one was about a teacher that sent a letter to a student, a former student, that was sexually graphic and obscene in nature. But the student had graduated, was 18 years old, and it didn't affect the teaching performance. Now, is it morally or immorally wrong for an adult man to send an 18-year-old male a sexually explicit letter? Who's to say? Erb versus Iowa State Board of Public Instruction, 1974. This one's kind of funny. I'm going to be quick. Richard Erb was a teacher a married man having an affair with Margaret Johnson, who was also married. Her husband suspected that she was cheating, so he hides in her trunk of her car one night. She drives to school. He's still in the trunk. She drives to some secluded area. He's still in the trunk, and they have sex in the backseat of the car while the husband's in the trunk. Now, I'm trying to understand how he was in the trunk that long. He didn't have to get out, use the restroom. He didn't eat. Did he have enough air? But I'm assuming that he did, because he stayed in that trunk all day and was able to hear his wife having an affair with this man. So the school decided to fire him because of adultery, and they viewed that as sufficient evidence of unfitness to teach. But the Supreme Court revoked it, said that the board used excessive power. They didn't have the authority to do that. Wasn't enough evidence. It did not affect his teaching ability. Sherburne versus School Board Act versus the school board, 1984, was a female teacher was living with a man. They were not married. And back then, you couldn't be unwed with having children, or unwed living with another person. That was immoral. This is a case study activity. I have handouts for this. This just talks about, is it immoral? How do you apply the nexus requirement to it? Does the conduct affect your students? And would your decision be the same if the scenario was slightly different? Protecting your privacy. Keep what you do in the dark in the dark. Of course, we don't want you doing anything illegal, but if that's what you're doing, keep it in the dark. You are protected for freedom of speech outside of the school. Teachers are able to speak about public issues not related to school issues. Freedom of association. Teachers have the right to join labor unions and political and religious organizations. Political activity, personal life choices. Teachers must keep sexual preferences and activities private. Here are some helpful tips. Monitor what you post online. Update your privacy settings on social media networks. Remove any friends, family members, parents, and or students from your social media network accounts if the content may be inappropriate. Protect yourself. Ask yourself if your actions are a positive reflection of self. Apply the nexus requirement to questionable behavior. Is what you're doing going to affect the classroom performance? Does what you're doing affect your students, your school? Is it a negative impact to them? You have to ask yourself that. This concludes my presentation, and I hope you enjoy it. Show and tell is not an invasion of privacy.